Welcome in. It's your boys from Crossbody of Work. My name is Evan.
I am Javier.
And we're going to the movies. We are starting this new series where we are going to review wrestling movies or movies starring wrestlers. And we're starting in a good place, but a sad place.
It's good because it's arguably the best wrestling inspired movie ever made. It's this or The Wrestler. I mean, it's up to you which one you want,
I
but
do like this better than The Wrestler.
it's heavy.
The heavy movie we're talking about, released in 2023, is The Iron Claw, the story of the Von Erich family. You know about the Von Erichs already, Javier, but what would you tell
Yeah.
people if somebody was like, hey, tell me something about the Von Erichs?
God, how get a therapist because you're
Yeah.
about to cry a lot. It is trauma and a curse, and it's a family who owned a promotion in Texas called
Yep.
World
World
Class
class.
Championship Wrestling. They were very popular in the late 80s, 90s, or late 70s into the 80s. It was Fritz Von Erich and his boys. They were basically the faces of the promotion. They brought in a revolving door of people to work around there. But one by one, the boys fell. And by fell, I mean died.
This is a. We're going to talk about when we go through the movie some of the different ways this is fictionalized in terms of like making timelines.
Yeah.
They altered some timelines for dramatic effect, but there's no changing the dramatic effect of the fact that if you look at the Von Erich family tree, there's a lot of unfortunate like crosses next to people very young.
Yeah, I mean the craziest part is that the movie actually didn't even go deep enough. Like they cut out Chris Von Erich completely.
They did cut out
Another
Chris,
son who killed himself.
the youngest of the Von Erichs. So the Von Erichs in order is Jack, who passed away when he was just a baby, when he was about 5 or
Yeah,
6 years old, and
something
then
in that
Kevin
range.
Von Erich, who is the only surviving Von Erich brother, then David, then Carrie, then Mike, and Chris. And the movie does not include Chris Von Erich.
Yeah, he
Um,
just does not exist at all.
I watched this movie specifically for recording this because I hadn't actually seen it before. I just never got around to going to see it in theaters, but it's now on Prime in Canada, and you said it's on Max, right?
I believe it's either Max or Netflix
Yeah.
here in the US. One of those two.
Got some options if you haven't seen it. You saw it in theaters,
I did. I went. When did this come out? December.
December
Uh,
2023.
yeah, I went in December with my girlfriend, and it hit hard, man. There was not a dry eye in that theater. I can tell you
No,
that.
this is a very good movie, and I think we should talk about first the plot, right? Kind of
Yeah,
go through a little bit about the plot, what kind of is going through. Might steal some bits from the rewatchables. What a great podcast, but
great, love it.
that's fine.
Hey, wait, they did the rewatchables on the Iron Claw?
No, no, no. What I mean is they
Oh,
always do the same bits of like who won the movie,
yeah.
Apex Mountain, stuff like that. No, we won't. We're not biting on them
No,
that
no, no.
hard, but we'll borrow some things. The movie starts with Fritz
Yeah,
Holt
Holt.
McCallany.
That isn't Holt his name in Mindhunter?
I think it is,
Yeah.
which is just
Or
funny. Like you
is
get to
he
just.
Holt? Wait, is he Holt or is Groff Holt?
I don't think Groff is Holt, but
No, I
I'm
don't
so
remember.
glad. I'm so glad you brought him up because I fucking love Mindhunter. He was Bill Tench in Mindhunter,
Yeah, he was Tench, and then Holt was the other one. Was
which
Groff, I believe.
Holden.
Holden. That's what it was.
God, Mindhunter
Close
needs to
enough.
come back. 19 episodes was not enough.
Nah, God, I loved it. Yeah. So it starts off with Fritz Von Erich, who is played by Bill Tench from Mindhunter and
Yeah,
or Holt. What is his
Holt
real name?
McCallany.
Holt McCallany. A terrific actor, like genuinely fantastic actor. I hope this is an even bigger launching pad for him being on in more prominent films because he is incredible. It's
It's
like
true.
that thing that we had for like a super long time. Jeffrey Wright is really good as an actor, and then like he
Yeah,
would just be getting like part roles in a lot of like movies and good movies and shows like Westworld and stuff like
yeah.
that. And it wasn't really until last year when
When you got
American
American
Fiction
Fiction,
drops
yeah.
when he's the lead in the movie, and he's freaking amazing in it. And now I really hope that was a launching pad for him to like get bigger, more leading roles in films.
we get introduced to the family a little bit. So of course we have Fritz, who is our patriarch. He is married to Doris, aka Dottie, who's played by Maura
Yep.
Tierney,
Yeah. Another
and
great actress.
another great actress. And then we get introduced to the boys. So we have Zac Efron as Kevin, who is the
Yep.
surviving oldest brother. Jeremy Allen White gets introduced a little bit later as Carrie. He's currently training for the Olympics as a discus thrower.
Yeah. Shoot. I mean, everything's here to shoot, but
Everything's a shoot, but the timelines and places are altered. And then we have Harris Dickinson as David Von Erich, who is about to make his debut
yep.
into World Class Championship Wrestling. And then we have Stanley Simons as Mike, the youngest son, who doesn't really want to get into the wrestling business.
He's also a teenager at this
Yeah,
point,
he's
I
a
believe,
he's a
at the
teenager as
beginning.
we start the movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The we mentioned Jack Jr. and Jack Jr. I believe like legitimately passed away because he got like electrocuted and fell face first into a puddle or something like that.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I didn't look up the details on that, but that is incredibly sad. Yes,
Yeah.
he stepped on a trailer tongue, was electrically shocked, and fell into a melting snow puddle face first and drowned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Immediately we are told about the Von Erich curse, which starts off with Fritz because there are moments in this where we jump back
Yeah.
in time, and one of those is Fritz when he's a professional wrestler. We think he's lined up. He buys himself a car, like a brand new car for the
Cadillac,
family.
baby.
And Dottie's like, how can we afford this? He's like, I'm about to get the championship match, or I'm about to win the belt. All this stuff, they're gonna have to. Like, I'm doing so much good work, all this other stuff. And then he doesn't get it, and that's like kind of the whole story is that Fritz was never the world's champion, and because of that, he now has it in his mind. My kid, one of my kids, is going to
Yeah.
be the world champion and
Yeah.
bring me the belt.
In the movie, I've got four like shots at this. One of these
Yeah.
four is going to become world champion. So Kevin's hair.
Eldest.
Kevin's hair is era appropriate. However,
It's bad.
it's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's just on his. It just sits on his head.
It's bad, and it looks terrible on Zac Efron.
It's the
By
way
the
I would
way,
have drawn hair as a child.
I just have to say this: Zac Efron would have been a great Carrie Von Erich. Like physically, he fits the bill perfectly.
Yeah.
But the acting chops of it, I think he nailed Kevin.
He did a very good job on Kevin. We'll talk a little bit later about who we think was the best performance in the movie. But he does a really good job as Kevin.
He's fast forward a little bit to the more modern day. Kevin is the Texas heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
He starts a relationship with a woman named Pam, who is played by Lily
James.
Who's great in this movie as well in her spots. He explains the Von Erich curse, which hasn't even really gone into full effect yet. Explaining, the thing about Jack Jr. It was supposedly brought on by Fritz, changing his last name from Atkinson to his mom's, like his
Von Erich,
Von Erichs, and whose family had suffered constant tragedy. So the Von Erich thing is like a shoot from the mom side of the family.
Yeah.
Like Fritz's
mom had bad vibes.
Yeah.
while they're like, hey, bad name, that everybody's got to die. Sorry.
Yeah. Apparently, it comes down to all this stuff. David, like you mentioned earlier, David's starting to get into the wrestling business as well. But Kevin is informed that he's going to have a match against the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Harley Race.
I could not imagine, one, having a wrestler as a dad, but two, having a wrestler as a dad who kind of keeps up kayfabe. Because the way he describes having this match with Harley Race, he's like, if you go out there and you sure have a hell of a match, they're gonna make you the number one contender again, and because it's a non-title match. And I'm like, just talk to him like a normal person. But as we learn through this movie, Fritz Von Erich sucks.
He is not a normal person.
He is obsessed with one thing and one thing only, and that is the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah. Kevin wins it's a non-title match. Kevin
Yeah.
wins the match by disqualification. So he puts himself in the lead, I guess, to challenge for the title, which is interesting. Kevin also wrestles barefoot.
Yeah.
He's the only one. He wrestles barefoot, which is weird.
During that match against Harley Race, though, he takes a vertical suplex on the
Yeah.
outside onto the concrete, and they have like the music slow and you can't hear it. It's like the ring in the ear and you can't hear anything. He gets up at the count of 9, which if you and I were watching this match for the podcast Crossbody of Work, go and listen to it. If you don't, we would be like, wow, great sell job by Kevin, and we would move on and we'd be great.
Yeah.
Does Fritz think of it that way?
Nope. Fritz is super disappointed.
Fritz is fucking pissed.
Fritz is like, what are you doing? He turns into Vince McMahon.
Took a while to get up on that suplex.
Oh man, and we cut a little bit down the line. David is making his debut. He starts off by cutting a promo before he actually gets into the ring, and he's showing like a natural showmanship. He definitely is apt for the promo side of things, whereas Kevin is not.
And that's after that Harley Race match. It's David who cuts the promo
Yeah,
and cuts a fiery promo.
yeah, he does. I mean, it's a hell of a promo. Hunter Dickinson, by the way, who I believe later this year has a movie coming out with Saoirse Ronan that I really want to watch. And this is the film that I was like, oh, I'm in on Hunter Dickinson. This guy's good.
You're buying stock?
I'm buying stock. I'm buying it now.
He's also apparently in the next Mission Impossible film.
I'm in.
Oh wait, no, that's Holt McCallany is in that one. Let me just double check.
That's even better.
I was gonna say I don't think Harris Dickinson can play the Secretary of Defense.
Yeah, so David does end up making his debut. I believe it's a tag match with his brother. They win, huge pop, all this other stuff. He really, the emphasis here is that he's displaying that he has a showmanship and like a flair sort of thing to him that really endears him to the crowd, makes him more appealing than Kevin, who is a better worker.
Yep.
But he's pretty bland and he's not a great promo.
Yeah. We get some shots of the boys, doing some drugs, some alcohol because Carrie joins them. Carrie joins the Von Erichs because of the 1980 Olympic boycott, which is real.
Yep.
That is a true thing that happened. He was training and qualifying for the Olympics as a discus thrower, but was not able to join because of the fact that they boycott the 1980 Olympics in Russia, USSR.
Yeah. Carrie has to come back home. He's pretty bummed, but everyone's happy to see him. Fritz immediately starts pressing him about becoming a wrestler.
Yeah. And he agrees. And that's the one thing is like, they do such a good job of portraying the like blind loyalty to your parents that you have when you're young, of like just dad says it's the right decision, doing what dad says. Like it's so common.
And they're just good old Southern boys. That's kind of the norm over there.
They go to church and they go to the wrestling ring. And the fact that we have 3 now, we got David, we got Kevin, we got Carrie. There's 3 Freebirds too. It's time for some 6-man action.
In 1983, I believe it is at this point. Yep. Kevin, Carrie, and David, they beat the Freebirds to win the 6-man tag team championships. And then we get some drama, because it's Fritz volunteering David over Kevin to fight the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. At this point now, it is Ric Flair who holds the big gold belt.
David's like, oh, Dad probably didn't mean to put me first. And Kevin's like, Dad doesn't make mistakes. You're getting the shot.
Yeah.
That's
so
tough.
dumb.
And so that's going to be at the Parade of Champions in May. So they're kind of waiting for that. In the interim, we get some things like Carrie and David doing some steroids. Juice.
Tracks. Kevin and Pam get married.
I fucking love the wedding scene. This is one of my favorite scenes.
When they're together and they start dancing, awesome. Love it.
They're cutting a rug to Thank God I'm a Country Boy by John Denver. And they're all doing a little line dancing and they're having a good time. And I'm like, oh, look at Zac Efron in his element.
Yeah. Hey, man, I was at your wedding. A lot of the boys got together for a nice little
cut some
dance.
Rugs.
Yeah, I was at a wedding a few weeks ago. One of my best friends in this world got married. All the boys are out there. We've known each other since we were 12, 13, 14. We were all just there
Yeah,
dancing,
but instead
vibing.
of instead of thank God I'm a country boy, like it was like Soldier Boy, and you guys all doing the Soldier Boy dance.
At one point, "Give Me Everything" by Pitbull was played. I don't remember if we were what the group looked like at that point, but that was playing.
Ah, very Bridgerton of you. Um,
How?
so at the wedding, there's also some key developments. Kevin goes to the bathroom and he hears somebody throwing up, and he thinks they're just like getting wasted. But it's
Yeah.
David who is throwing up blood.
Yeah. Which is not good, and we will learn that in a little bit, but
I
Kevin
know very little, but I'm pretty sure the blood is supposed to stay inside your body.
yeah, unless you just have, like, a nosebleed issue, which happens. It's probably just
That's
a
true.
deviated septum. You should get that checked out.
I used to get nosebleeds a lot. I still get nosebleeds sometimes if I'm in a chlorine pool without like nose plugs.
Do you have a deviated septum?
I fucked something up in my nose when I broke my nose as a kid, and so
Well,
hypersensitivities.
it'd be like that.
It be like that.
Kevin lets him know that he's gonna be a father because Pam is pregnant. So
Yeah,
he's I believe David's the first person he tells about this. So
at least in the movie.
it's just a really nice, charming, cool moment. Um, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so we jump from that to Kevin coming home. And Fritz is sitting alone in the dark. And I know very little in this world, like, but I know that blood's supposed to stay in your body. And if you find a parent sitting alone in the dark, it's not good news.
Nope.
Uh, David is dead from
Yeah.
enteritis, which is a disease that you can get in your organs. Yeah, in
Intestines.
your intestines and
Right.
your organs.
It's an intestinal thing.
And yeah, he
He was
died.
doing a
And
tour of Japan.
he was doing a tour of Japan. He died February 10th, 1984 in Tokyo. And yeah, that is true. That is true. Everyone in wrestling believes that the real reason that he died was because of a drug overdose, and that Bruiser Brody may have disposed of the narcotics by flushing them down the toilet. This is a long standing belief in the world of wrestling. It
He had
doesn't matter.
intestinal
It was still just
issues. Like,
it was a very tragic occurrence, anyways.
yes, this was a week before the Flair match. After that, both Kevin and Kerry volunteer to take David's place in the match. Fritz flips a coin to decide who's going to do it. Then there's a jump cut to the match. Who gets the match?
Kerry gets the match. I will say, Jeremy Allen White, I know you're only 5'7". Bring it to the wrestling ring, all right? He's just got the right fucking vibe.
He's just.
He's
It's
got
because he
that
looks
charisma.
crazy.
He does look crazy. You have to look a little crazy.
Yeah, he's also, admittedly, he's also the best actor here. So
Of the Von Erich brothers, definitely.
yeah, so
Yeah.
like he's just killing it. Like
So Kerry gets the match, and there's this really good little scene that I love. And so all the guys are at the match, right? Which, by the way, the Parade of Champions became named in David's honor because he had passed away tragically.
yeah,
Dottie is watching it from home. And at one point, there's a shot where she is in the little chair in the living room watching on the TV. And you can see David sitting on the stairs over her shoulder. And she turns around, and he's obviously not there. But
yeah,
like this movie does a really good job with grief. It's just the way that it's just heavy and sometimes heavier than other times, but also it's
yeah.
never not there.
It's
It's
ever
very
present.
good. It's very good.
It is legitimately one of the best like film translations of grief I've ever seen. Is throughout the film, just the way it's an ever present thing, and then at the end, oh, we'll get to it, but Kerry ends up beating Flair for the
Yeah,
title. He becomes the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Fritz is absolutely overjoyed. Like he could not be happier about this.
it's true.
And then we get our first like egregious, not egregious in like a bad way because it works with the context of the movie, but like our first, when I say egregious, I mean like it's the biggest stretch so far of the what the real occurrences were. Carrie's despondent because he's still sad,
He's so
grieving
sad
that
about David.
he's
Yeah.
lost his brother. He goes out for a motorcycle ride, and then we come to find out after a little bit of a jump cut, he got into an accident and he lost his right foot.
The real timeline for what happens is that this accident happens to Kerry in 1986. He would lose the NWA World Heavyweight Championship after 18 days in Yokosuka, Japan, in a bout that was marred with controversy because Kerry's feet were on the bottom rope following a reverse roll up, but the referee ignored it and made the count. Kerry has the 12th shortest NWA World title reign in history. According to Flair, which take that with the biggest grain of salt you can find,
Huge. Go to a salt mine, take all of it. That's
dig
the amount of
in.
salt you should be.
Kerry lost the belt because he, quote, no-showed at least one night and possibly two, and thus Flair was told by an NWA official to catch a Japan because he was getting the belt back.
That
So
actually kind of tracks. I'm not gonna lie.
the the movie does take some very strong liberties there
Yeah,
of making it happen immediately after. Um, it works for the movie. It does work for
it
the movie,
does.
but you just know us wrestling fans being like, what? Kerry should have a foot for like a couple more years.
Yes. The thing that really got me here was I didn't going into the film. I never realized how bad Carrie's injury actually was. Like I thought he only lost like the top half of his foot or something. Like I thought it was. I didn't know it was the entirety
The
of his
whole
foot.
foot.
Like that sucks, man.
Um,
The fact that he kept going too was just crazy.
we then get this little quick scene where hey, Pam and Kevin have their baby, and that's
Yeah,
great. And instead of naming it Von Erich, they changed the name back to Exon.
which Kevin is feeling the curse for real.
Yes, and
Yeah,
for those of you who don't know, that baby is Ross. You know him now as Ross Von Erich, an active wrestler in the wrestling scene.
yeah. I
Yeah,
believe the news came out the other day that Ross and his brother are like legitimately signed somewhere right now.
interesting,
I don't know where, but I know they're signed somewhere. Probably
interesting.
AEW, and they're just waiting to debut them. But some about that. There was a lot of interest going around about that. Um, Kevin begins training Mike because Mike has decided to join wrestling. Even though he has always said like he wants to be a musician. There are scenes earlier in the movie where the brothers go out. The three brothers like sneak Mike out of the house so he can go to a gig. He's a musician at heart. He does not want to enter wrestling, but after the passing of David, Carrie's now accident, he's like, I got to step up. Like it's my time now to do it. So Kevin begins training him. He has a match. It goes pretty okay, and then they cut to another match of his, and he injures his shoulder. And when
On
he
a
injures his
drop kick.
shoulder, yeah, he injures his shoulder on a drop kick, and it leads to him going into toxic shock, and a toxic shock induced coma
Mm.
when he goes under the knife.
This is another bit of changed history. Mike had already started to train as a professional wrestler before Kerry's accident, before David's death. This is all again
Yeah,
in meant more for the storyline than anything. But the toxic shock and the busted shoulder are very real.
yeah.
Mike,
He emerges from the coma, but he has noticeable brain damage because of it.
yes, it is not the same. I also didn't realize that so it's 85 when this happened, when he had the shoulder injury and then the toxic
Yeah,
shock and the coma. Um, and then in 1986, he suffered head injuries from a car accident in which his vehicle overturned and lost control.
Jesus.
Yeah.
These people have the worst luck. um,
Yes.
yeah, so he's recovering. He recovers slowly but surely. That's kind of how these things go sometimes, thankfully. And then Fritz starts pressing him to get back into the ring because, of course, your kid's now like he's just suffered from brain damage. He's gone under the knife. His shoulder's messed up. He just came out of a coma. That's like a lifelong trauma thing that he's gonna
Yeah.
be feeling. But you know what? Fritz Von Erich needs his kid to wrestle because he's got to be world champion again.
Somebody's got got to get the world title back. Also in this match, so Kerry has his amputated foot. Mike's injured. David's passed away. So Kevin has to have a new tag partner. And for a very brief moment, we see a specific wrestler. Very briefly,
So
not
brief. He
even
got cut, to be
introduced.
fair.
Not even introduced. We get Lance Von Erich, played by MJF.
Yeah. There is I hope that like a full on director's cut or something of the ilk is dropped somewhere. Maybe they don't see the problem with director's cuts is before we used to get them if you bought like a specific version of the physical media, but now we don't really do physical media as much unless it's like a huge movie like a Dune 2, a Marvel movie like that does big numbers or something like that. So we're not really getting that for this. I hope
Yeah.
that somewhere down the line we get a director's cut or an extended version with MJF's Lance Von Erich put in there.
Mike is sitting at the kitchen table with his mom, and she's having food, like dinner with him, and he just says, "Everybody wants me to be David, but I can't replace him." Oh, oh,
It's tough, man.
ah. He also can't remember how to play guitar, which was like what he did earlier. Like at one point,
Yeah.
the brothers snuck him out of the house so he could go to a gig at University of Texas,
Yeah.
and he can't remember how to play guitar now, and like that's sad. And so this like attempted guitar playing is the background noise for Carrie and Kevin training, where Carrie's trying to return to the ring, and they just start fucking yelling. Kevin and Carrie were antagonistic to each other at times.
Yeah, I mean Kevin's salty because he got pretty much stepped over,
Mm-hmm.
um, or leapfrogged by his brothers in the pecking order of things, and Carrie's just like, dude, I don't have a fucking foot. Like, take it easy.
But also, he says, like, you want to be the only brother in the ring and you want all of dad's attention. Because it all goes back to Fritz. It's all about getting they just want someone to tell them they love them. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, this leads to what happens, or the next grief, like traumatic experience that happens here with the family. Mike goes out to a field. He unfortunately takes his life,
Mm-hmm.
and then the family goes out searching for him. They get to the field, they find him, and I think Mike's death really. We'll talk. I mean, for those who don't know, Kevin is the only one that
Yeah.
survives.
I said that at the top.
So
Kevin's the only surviving brother. Yeah.
yeah, so we can assume what happens with Carrie. But in my opinion, I think that Mike's death is really the one that hit me hardest of the bunch because like it's the way that it happens. It's not just like one individual that finds him. It's the whole family there
Yeah.
searching.
Mike wrote a note. The note says, "I'm sorry if I hurt you, but I'm going to a better place." In real life, April 12th, 1987, Mike left the suicide note for his family, went to Louisville Lake where he drank alcohol and overdosed on the sleeping aid Placidil. And his body was found 4 days later and buried at the Grove Hill Memorial Park in Dallas. There is my favorite scene in the movie coming up.
Oh, go
It's
right ahead.
it's sad, but it's very poignant. Dottie is trying to get dressed for the funeral, and she is staring at the same dress that she wore to David's funeral,
Yeah,
and she can't put it on. And her daughter-in-law, Pam, comes in and she says, "I can't put it on. I just can't put it on. It's the same dress. I need a new dress." And Pam's saying, like, everybody in the community loves you. They all understand. They all want to be there for you. And Dottie's like, "I can't wear the same dress. I shouldn't have to wear the same dress to the funerals of two of my sons."
yeah.
And it's such a short scene. It is some of the best acting in this entire movie
Oh,
from both
absolutely.
Lily James and Maura Tierney. And it was, I think I had been like, okay, whole, because obviously I knew all the Von Erich side. Like I walked in with that knowledge. That scene
Yeah.
happened, and I was like, oh, oh,
I
I
was
am
like,
no longer
oh.
okay. Okay.
That was like the beginning of the end. Like
Yes.
the mic into that scene was like that was the beginning of like, oh god.
It's funny because
Like,
on rewatchables they do Apex Mountain, right? Like the
yeah.
peak of it. This is the peak, like some of the peak sadness of the movie, and but then it
Yeah.
stays up there for the rest of the
Yeah,
movie.
I will say it does not like dip
It
really at any
doesn't get
point.
any
Like
better.
Kevin starts distancing himself from Pam and Ross at this
Yeah,
point because he's like there's a curse, like I don't want to do it. He's sleeping at they have like a hall or like a big thing that World Class has. Kevin's at this point, I think he's taken over
not quite.
around this point. Well, he takes over at some point, but he's starting to stay in the office space in the hall that they run shows at, and he's like, I can't go home, like I
Hmm.
can't. rub this off on my family. I
He
can't
he
do
he
it.
sleeps, which is funny because it's not like a proximity thing. Like it's the name. You already didn't
Yeah.
give them the name, so like that's good.
And it's not either of those two things. I want it to be let known out there. This is not a real curse.
The curse is Fritz. Fritz is the curse.
This is a family who had a terrible father, and
Yes.
in doing so, like, traumatized his boys to the point where all they had to believe in themselves is that they couldn't, like, do for themselves. They couldn't be themselves. They had to inject themselves with drugs because they need to be bigger, they need to be faster, stronger, all that stuff. They had to take like narcotics because my body's fucking hurt. Like I need to like make sure that I don't feel this much pain so I can keep training, keep
Yeah.
working, all this stuff because I need to get this world title because my entire life that's all my father has ever instilled into me.
Kevin does get a shot at the NWA World Title against Ric Flair, and
Yeah,
I want to shout out Aaron Dean Eisenberg, who embodies Ric Flair. He's not doing a Flair impression, which
it's bad
he's
though. I can't lie.
invoking. He's invoking Flair,
He's
but
peacocking is what he's doing.
he sounds like Flair only when he yells, which is I think weird. He
I
sounds
don't
like
like
Flair when
it.
he yells.
I'm
I
sorry. I
think
didn't. I did not like it.
I think he does good at embodying the way that I think Ric Flair walked around backstage in 1985 or
My thing
87.
is, I will say I don't think there's an actor currently, like a known actor currently, that I think that could play Ric Flair.
No,
I don't think so. Like I just don't see it. Like you can throw out options and I'll
Ric
be
Flair's
like, oh, they're
he's a
decent,
cartoon
all this stuff.
character, so obviously,
But there's just like a level, like there's eventually going to be a Ric Flair biopic or like
yeah,
movie of some kind because that like he just it'd be so good.
yeah.
But like terrible because he's terrible. But the quality of the film
The
itself would be
film would be
very
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like, and I'm thinking of who would play that, and there is just not someone that comes to mind that I think could hit that.
Kevin has the match against Ric Flair and ends up getting
Yep.
disqualified. He has these he's laying in massive shots. Then he locks in the Iron Claw. We haven't even talked about the Iron Claw. It's the
The
finishing move
literal
where he puts the hand on the head. Fritz did it.
family move.
All the family members do it. He is doing it on Flair. He gets disqualified because Flair's at the ropes and refuses to let it go. They treat this as if this was not the finish of the match. Like, because you go backstage and Kerry and Fritz are like, Kevin, what the fuck happened?
Yeah,
And he's
they're
just,
acting like it's a shoot.
yeah, they're acting like it's shooting. He's just like, oh, we don't really know. And then Ric Flair walks in and is like, you've got it, Kevin. You've got the juice. Where do you get fucked up around here? That's why
Very on brand.
that is when I was like, oh, he's got Ric Flair down. Like,
Yeah,
maybe not
he
in the
knows the
ring,
man.
maybe not the promo, but walking in, whoo, you got it, baby. Let's get fucked up somewhere. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
you got it now.
that sounds about right. Kerry comes back to wrestling. He's got a new prosthetic foot. And he actually gets hired to work for the WWF.
The Texas Tornado, baby.
It's now dwarfing WCCW in
Yes.
popularity at this point because Vince has gone worldwide. He's gone national.
Jerry Jarrett wants to buy WCCW to combine it and make the U.S. Wrestling Federation, I believe, or Continental U.S. Wrestling, something like that.
Yeah.
Fritz does not want to sell, but he's given the company to Kevin at this point. Kevin says, hey,
Yeah.
Jerry wants to buy WCCW. Fritz says, if you sell, you can forget about walking through these doors again. They're at his house.
Yeah.
And then Kevin accuses Fritz of fudging the numbers, that he's been withholding money from him the whole time.
Yeah.
So Kerry wins the IC title, and then they come home to visit for Christmas. And Kerry walks in, and Fritz says to him, oh, you got the Intercontinental Championship, the second biggest title in wrestling since your brother ruined our promotion. Oh, tell us how you really feel, Fritz.
Yeah. He's on, like you mentioned, he's home for Christmas, and as a present, Kerry gives Fritz a new gun for Christmas. He also Kerry gets upset because Fritz decides to put it away instead of firing it.
Yeah.
Which Kerry is not in a good place. He is very much on narcotics.
Yes.
Um, he later calls Kevin. He tells him that the curse is constant. Like a he calls him from a hotel room. He's like
Yeah.
crying. He's not doing well.
He's like, I'm cursed. I want to
Yeah,
die.
he's
Yeah.
saying, "I'm cursed. I want to die." His career is going well down the tube. Like
Yeah. He's no
he's
longer like he's gonna be going. Doing the house show circuit now. Like,
Yeah, he's gonna get fired soon. He's considering suicide. And then Kevin's like asking, like, "Hey, like, where are you? Like, I will come to you. Where are you?" Like this, Kevin's showing genuine concern. He's being a very, very good brother right
yes.
here. And then Carrie hangs up before Kevin. He can tell Kevin any details on that. Um, Kevin calls Fritz for help. He gets none
Fritz
at all.
says specifically, he says, you need to do this for yourselves, you and your brother. And he's like, just look out for him, Dad. Like, Kevin's so fucking
Like
pissed
he's
at
your
him.
fucking kid, you know.
Kevin
Look
drives
out
out
for him.
to the family house, finds Carrie's car with nobody behind the wheel, runs into the house, and hears one gunshot. He comes out. He was too late. Carrie also dies by suicide, doing it with the gun he gave Fritz for
Yeah.
Christmas.
And then he nearly strangles Fritz to death in a fit of rage after doing so.
Yeah, fair. Fritz has let all of his brothers die, and the thing he liked most was being a brother. Now,
Kevin grabs Carrie's body,
yep.
brings it into the house, sets it down on a table, and he just sits there.
And he sees visions of his brothers on the other side in the afterlife. He sees Carrie
Yeah.
pain-free with both feet on a boat, and he leaves the coin in the boat. That is the one that decided that Carrie would face Ric Flair. He
Yep.
boats over to see Mike and David. Mike's playing guitar on a dock. David has
Yeah.
the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt. It's all very exciting. Jack Jr.'s there too, and they get to meet Jack Jr., who
He
was
asks,
yeah,
Carrie asks, "Hey, where's Jack Jr.?"
and he's there too. And there's an article that I read that came out yesterday on the day of recording.
Yeah.
It's on Cinema Blend, and it's about a scene that we didn't talk about earlier in the movie. There's a scene earlier where they pick up Mike from band practice, and they say, like, Mike's like, I want a burger, and like, we got food in the car. And then I think it's David's like, oh, I'll get burgers with you, little brother. And so they go and they pick up some burgers, and they drive around. And they go to the river, and they just go in lazy tube, and that's
Yeah.
the river that they see later.
Oh yeah.
It's the same river. And so when it's weird in this article, I'm going to make sure I talk about the author's name. Philip Sledge
Yep.
talks about this. It's this weird happy-go-lucky moment in the beginning of the movie. And all it does is set up that the thing they like most is being each other's brothers. Literally every time they show up to
Yeah.
see each other, they get so excited. Like when Carrie comes home for the first time, they're so excited. When they're on the river, they're so excited. When they're at Mike's performance, they're so happy for him. Like they loved being brothers to one another.
Yeah. They
And
were
so,
super, super, super close.
and then this scene where it's like in the afterlife, all that Kevin can picture is like what would afterlife look like for them? It's all the brothers just having a calm day together. That's
And
so fucking sad,
by
man.
the way, the risk taken by the director, I forget his name, to
Sean Durkin.
Sean Durkin, the risk taken by him to put that scene in is crazy. Like these scenes never work. It has worked like
Afterlife
one
scenes?
time, and it's like Black Panther.
I
They
was
like
gonna say Black
rarely
Panther's the
ever
first thing
work.
that came to my head. Yeah.
It rarely works in films, but right here, it's perfect. It's perfect. It was, by the way, this is the first tears. Like the first tears that I shed were during that scene.
Oh, mine was the Dottie scene, 100%. Speaking of Dottie, after this, Kevin sells WCCW to Jerry Jarrett and wrestles
Yeah.
for him to make some extra cash. Dottie is just doing some painting at the house. She mentioned earlier that she's painted and just didn't really know why she gave it up. And
Yeah.
she didn't make any dinner when Fritz asked. They would be divorced by 1992.
As they should be.
Then we get the last scene of the
Yeah.
movie.
Pam gets pregnant again.
Pam is pregnant. Kevin is sitting in the yard with Ross and Marshall,
Yep.
watching the boys play football.
He just
Kevin,
starts crying.
he's crying. And when the boys come up to him, he says the man doesn't cry. And the boys tell him like they can cry because everyone cries.
Cry.
Do you know what's making you cry? Which is, and he said, I used to be a brother, and I'm not a brother anymore. And they say that they'll be his brothers now.
Lost it.
Oh, buddy.
Even just now, got a little choked up. Not even gonna lie to you.
Oh, it's the worst. It's so
Choked,
sad.
man. It is. You know, it sucks. They promise to be brothers to him. He gets up, he starts playing football with them, and that's really the end of the movie. We get a little textual epilogue.
Yeah.
Reveals the Von Erichs were inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame in 2009. Uh, and then we get something that was like kind of nuts to me, but it's really cool. Kevin and Pam are still married. That's not the thing that's nuts. That's awesome. Good for them. They bought a ranch in Hawaii. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
And they have their large family that lives with them. Like I think it's 4 kids that they had.
4 kids, 13 grandkids.
13 grandkids live with them on that ranch in Hawaii. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I love it though. That's awesome. I mean, look, you know, it's traumatic, and the everything that happened to Kevin was like, it's so easy to just break. And he held strong. He did it for his family, and he both, you know, his wife and his kids, but also his parents, like his brothers, as they, you know, unfortunately they all passed. But you know, when David passed, you know, he was still there for Carrie and Mike. When Mike passed, he was still there, tried his best to be there for Carrie. And when Carrie went, you know, he really, it shattered him obviously, but he had to be there for his family, and so he was. And it's really, really cool that still to this day he is there. Like, he's ever present. He's in their lives. Like, it's not like he's just a dad and, you know,
Yeah.
he's the grandparent and
He's
he's
not
around.
like Fritz.
Like he is physically there.
There is nothing I like more than movies about just like breaking generational trauma. And really
Yes.
that is what this movie is at its core. It's just breaking out of
Yes.
this generational trauma that clearly affected the Von Erichs. That was all Fritz's doing. Um,
Yes.
all right, I want to know. You get to give up best performance in the movie.
Oh, that's tough. You know, there are some really good Lily James scenes here.
There are.
Obviously,
The diner
Dottie's
scene when
great.
they're like their first date is really good.
It's so good. I think overall I have to give it to Zac Efron, just
Okay.
because
Yeah.
like usage rate was so high, but he nails it.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the best performance of his career, and you know, he's been around for damn near 20 years now. But you know, for him to have grown to the point where you could take him very serious as a leading man in a movie that was a borderline Oscar contender, like him being a borderline best actor contender as well, like
Yeah.
that's insane growth to me. And I think he was the star.
He was definitely the star. He's up there for me. Um, I could see people thinking that the performance is a little one note, but I genuinely think that Holt McCallany as Fritz
Yeah.
is an outstanding performance
Yeah.
of just people don't know when they're wrong.
No.
And Fritz was never going to think that he was wrong, and so it's crazy to see. And Holt does a really good job of like bringing it into fruition. But also shout out to Maura Tierney for being great as the just like put upon wife.
Yeah. She was awesome. Hunter Dickinson again as David Von Erich. You know, you only really see him in the first like third half of the movie.
Yeah,
Um, but he is awesome. He is genuinely like the most electric brother.
yeah,
And he absolutely nailed the part. And again, like just because of this movie, I'm really excited to see what he does next because I think
yeah.
he's a fantastic
And then of
actor.
course Jeremy Allen White's also pretty good.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
pretty good.
Bear season 3 is coming out in like a couple weeks, so
Exciting. Um, Wrestler you wanted to see more of in the movie because we see some wrestlers. We
yeah.
see the Sheik. We see Ric Flair. We see Bruiser Brody. We see Gino Hernandez. We see Harley Race. We see the Freebirds.
I actually would have liked to see more Bruiser Brody.
There's one little scene where they're talking about the finish. It's for David's debut,
Yeah.
and it's Sheik and Brody versus the Von Erichs. And Brody is like, "Hey man, like welcome to the show." Like that. I was like, "Oh, you seem like a really cool guy." Which, by all accounts, it sounds like Bruiser Brody was a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish there was more
Yeah.
Bruiser Brody. I mean, it's not his movie, but I like Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, I wish there were more Bruiser Brody. If not Bruiser Brody, I would have liked more Freebirds because
More
that's like the
Freebirds.
iconic thing.
Just let the Freebirds cut one like 20-second promo in this
I
movie.
need more Michael P.S. Hayes.
Yes, Michael P.S. Hayes is the Freebird they didn't get the look of the most. The other two look pretty spot on. The Michael Hayes, I'm like, that's not
Yeah,
Michael
I mean, that's
Hayes.
Michael Hayes is so flamboyantly over the top. Like, who's gonna play him aside from like Tiger King? You know?
This is true. Another show stealer, Michael J. Harney as Bill Mercer, who's the commentator for
Ooh,
WCCW.
I was not paying attention enough to that.
He is also like the voice of reason. It seems to be like like the commentary is fine. Whatever wrestling commentary is wrestling commentary. But when Kevin takes over, he's kind of his sounding board too in terms of like
Yeah,
decision making, and he talks about like scaling down the production and things like that. And he also there's this great scene where Kevin can't get a promo right early in in the movie,
yeah,
and he's just like a stone cold professional during the whole thing. So really good cast all around.
yeah. What is it? What's the thing that the rewatchables love to do? Give me Samuel L. Jackson. Or what is it? They like list off like a bunch of random actors and actresses, and they're like, "Who do you think would be best here?" Like Samuel L. Jackson,
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
Machete, or like
Well, here's the thing. Let's do this movie in 1995. Who takes on a leading role? Like, is this a Tom Cruise vehicle?
um
Is this a younger Charlie Sheen vehicle? Like
wow, that's
who could kind of embody the Von Erichs from that older generation now?
oh man. Did you say Charlie Sheen?
I did.
Why?
I don't know. It's the first guy that came to mind.
um that's a good one. Who do you got?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of it of like guys who from the 90s. Like,
From the 90s is kind of tough.
yeah, that's a,
Um
you know who could have been Fritz? Tommy Lee Jones.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Easily.
just being the
Easily.
fucking worst. Just being,
Absolutely. Keanu is Mike.
yeah. Oh,
Um oh
Matt Damon. Matt Damon could have
as
been
who?
David. 100%.
No, I was gonna
Yes.
go Patrick Swayze for David.
Oh, okay.
I would say Patrick Swayze as David or Carrie would be pretty cool. Maybe even Kevin, honestly. I like Patrick Swayze a lot as an actor.
Leo
Um,
do Kevin?
nah, Leo's too young. Leo's way too young in the 90s.
Well, he makes his debut in 91. He's in Titanic in 97.
Yeah, but he's like 20. Like, he's also really tiny.
Could he have done a good Mike?
I think Leo is too heartthrob for this, to be honest.
The disrespect to Zachary Efron, who was on so many people's
Yeah,
walls.
but here's the thing. He's fucking massive. Like,
I remember when the first set photos came out for this, and people were like, "What the fuck is going on?"
yeah.
Zach
Like,
Efron's huge.
I think Tom, like honestly, mid to late 90s Cruise, he's too big for this movie, but like he could have done Carrie. If we're letting Jeremy Allen White do Carrie, then Tom Cruise could do Carrie.
That's fair. Essentially, you could just take the cast of The Outsiders, and instead of casting The Outsiders, you could just do the Iron Claw, and
Yeah.
you'd be like, "Yeah,
Ooh, I thought of a good Kevin. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Phil Horfman." Yes,
Love it.
I love it. What is the best overall scene in the movie?
I say it's the afterlife scene.
Agreed.
Um, but aside from that, I really like, there are three scenes that always stick out to me. It's
Okay.
the last scene where Kevin's with his kids.
Yeah.
It's the now that you mentioned it, I love the Dottie dress scene, so we'll put that
Yeah.
in there as an honorable mention, but it's not one of the three. It's the when Dottie's watching the TV and
David's
David's
behind her.
behind her. That's one of them. And then there is, I really like the diner scene between Kevin and Pam early on in the movie.
Such good energy, and honestly, this movie so badly needs the interactions between Kevin
Yeah.
and Pam. Kevin needs to like have a conversation with someone who's normal and like
Yeah.
outside of wrestling. Like she even does the conversation. She's like, "It's all fake, right?" And he's like, "It's not fake."
Yeah. And when they go out for Mike's gig, also I love that scene.
Yeah, so many good performances in this movie. I agree, it's the best wrestling movie of all time.
I think so. I will hear only arguments for the wrestler. That is it. That is literally the only other movie, and we'll cover that eventually. But it is the only. It's probably honestly the next time we do one of these, it'll probably be The Wrestler.
Yeah,
But
because like what your other options? You have Wrestler, you have Ready to Rumble, which is bad. You have Nacho Libre, which is fun,
you
but
could
that's
also do
not
like
the
a documentary style thing.
Beyond the
What is it?
Mat.
Beyond the Mat, stuff
Beyond the
like
Mat
that.
is great. Is a great. Um, but like, what are you gonna say? Like, no holds barred.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Fighting with my family.
Fighting with My Family. Hey, Florence Pugh's first real movie.
Yeah, Florence Pugh, excellent.
Great
She
actress.
great actress. She could have been
Selena
Pam.
Vega.
That's yeah. I always forget. Selena Vega is AJ Lee, right?
Yeah. Shout out to Dea
shout,
Trinidad.
shout out to her being in a big movie like that. Also, weird that Vince Vaughn's in that movie. It just feels incorrect.
Yes, but also, what's Vince Vaughn up to these days?
I think just making like NFT or like crypto ads.
Oh God.
Like
I
I
mean,
think
listen, the guy's probably loaded off of that 2000s run, so it's not like he needs the cachet anymore. But
no,
I
not at
think I
all.
think I think cinema has gone beyond Vince Vaughn.
Yeah. Um, I
Thankfully.
kind of read into the production of the movie, and it doesn't seem like there was a lot of like they talk about the decision to not include Chris Von Erich, so like we couldn't really have more tragedy in the movie. Like
It's like I said, they left stuff out.
yeah,
Like it's even see, the real story is even worse.
they had to
Like
cut sad, which is crazy with the amount of sad that's in this movie. They're like
and
we have to get rid of some sad.
the crazy thing is like they don't even show the rampant drug use. Like Carrie was a freaking mess. The guy got fired from the WWF, I think twice.
They do have random like little snippets where they're like and cocaine.
Yeah, like
But it's usually just like a little one off of just like here's a quick shot of Carrie like lifting his head up from a table.
yeah, it's bad, man. Overall, it's just not great stuff with that.
You know what? One of my favorite things to do is go to the IMDb trivia section, just learn stuff.
Ooh.
This one, there's like not a lot of things that were cool for trivia. One talks about Fritz asking Carrie about a wrestler by the name of Hellwig. That obviously refers to the Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
The fact that Carrie Von Erich is 6'2" and Jeremy Allen White is 5'7".
Yeah. Like Carrie's massive. Like it's not even just the fact that he was 6'2".
He's
He was
huge.
the biggest one.
Yep.
He's juiced to the gills. Like, but Jesus, he was also massive.
The only other one that kind of I saw on here that really stuck out to me was the Claw, right? The movie's named The Iron Claw. Makes another appearance in a Maura Tierney movie. Can you remember what movie? It is in Liar
Oh my God!
Liar.
Wait. Oh no, never mind.
It's
It
in
was not
Liar
going to be
Liar
that.
because Jim Carrey does it to his son Max, where he's like, "The Claw is coming to get
Oh
you."
my God! Yes.
Yeah,
What the hell?
yeah. And then it's funny because the rest of the spoilers are all just like it's all stuff like we had to switch around timelines to make things work, and the fact that they didn't let Zac Efron cry until the last scene of the movie.
Which was impactful.
Yes, because then
Let me
Zac
tell you.
Efron cried a lot.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a fantastic movie, obviously overall, but it's a movie that you don't even have to be a wrestling fan to watch.
No,
Like if you honestly, for anybody that has like I will always recommend this movie to any guy who has a brother. Like if you are a brother, watch this movie. It's so freaking like I watched this immediately upon leaving the theater. I texted my brother that I
yeah,
loved him. Like it's just one of those things that it's hard to relate to because I think the dynamic between sisters is so much it's so different
yeah.
from brothers. Like obviously I don't know, but like there's just like there's a level of unspokenness between that's not even a real word
It
probably,
is
but
now.
there's like an unspoken thing between brothers that like because you don't talk about it like you never so like there are some people out there who are like yeah like we're very open like I say I love you all the time all this other stuff blah blah
Yeah,
but like I feel like the majority of guys don't
a lot of guys
so
don't do a very good job at saying that they love their siblings.
yeah like or like really praising them or doing stuff like that in any way shape or form so like you know really going like that meant a lot for me going out of my way to text my brother I loved him like he said it back, all this stuff. And then he watched the movie at my mom's house. Like, he was just there visiting her, and he's like, I'm just gonna throw it on. And my mom was like, yeah, he was crying like a bitch. And then he texted me. And it's one of those things where, like, yeah, like, you know, uh, if you are fortunate enough to have a brother that, like, you truly, like, you guys have a good relationship, all this stuff, when you see a film like this, and it's all the brothers are close, that's like the whole thing there.
Yeah.
um and you watch it, and you're like, ugh, and you get to the ending scene and all that stuff. Like, yes, I'm crying because it's traumatic, it's so sad what happened to this family, but I'm also crying because, like, shit, I have a brother, like,
Yeah.
if any of this shit, even like 1% of it happened, and I lost him, I'd be a fucking mess.
So
Like, I
sad.
can't even imagine being like Kevin Von Erich and going through it 4 times. Like, that sucks.
This has been a very fun thing to go back and watch, though. What a great movie to add. We
Yeah,
are
so
going to be
good.
looking at some movies because you know what? I have a whole pop culture podcast, Pop Capsule podcast. Go and listen to it.
I have AMC A list. I go to the fucking movies.
We love the movies, so we're gonna be looking at some wrestling movies. Maybe even looking at some non-wrestling movies in the future. Why not?
We'll just
Let
start
us,
doing like fight movies, fucking blood sport and shit.
yeah, all the Rocky movies. Let us know what movies you want us to cover next in the comments. You should also check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Crossbody of Work. Check out Javier on social media wherever he tells you right now.
I'm on the Twitter machine at JMello Sports. Punch that into the search bar. Find me. Hit follow.
Follow me at It's Evan Gomes, ITSEVANGOMES. We will be back soon to cover more wrestling movies. We will talk to you then.
Bye.